The morning sun had barely climbed above the city skyline when the crowd gathered outside the largest classic car exhibition in the state. Cameras flashed, reporters hurried from one interview to another, and a faded blue sedan sat quietly beneath a white cover at the center of the event. No one expected that this forgotten car would uncover a family secret, restore a broken heart, and change the life of a powerful CEO forever. Stay with us until the very end because this unforgettable story proves that kindness can restart far more than an old engine. And before we begin, if you believe in kindness and second chances, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Heartwarming Tales for more emotional stories that warm the heart. Victoria Hale had built one of the country's most successful automobile companies before turning 42. Newspapers admired her intelligence, investors praised her confidence, and competitors respected her determination. Yet behind every achievement stood a painful memory she never allowed herself to revisit. Years earlier, before luxury offices and expensive suits became her everyday life, she had been the daughter of Harold Hale, a humble mechanic whose greatest treasure was an aging blue family sedan. Harold loved that car because it had carried his wife to the hospital when Victoria was born, transported the family on every summer picnic, and remained faithful through years of hardship. When Harold passed away after a long illness, Victoria buried every reminder of her childhood, believing success meant leaving the past behind forever. The old sedan had been stored inside a neglected warehouse owned by the company for nearly 15 years. Dust covered every inch of its faded paint, its tires had gone flat, and the engine had not started since Harold's final drive home. During preparations for the company's anniversary exhibition, an employee accidentally discovered the forgotten vehicle. Thinking it might create a nostalgic display about the company's humble beginnings, the staff cleaned the exterior and placed it among the expensive collector cars. Victoria arrived for the exhibition wearing a tailored gray business suit, surrounded by executives and photographers. The moment she noticed the old sedan, her expression turned cold. Without even walking closer, she quietly ordered the staff to remove it immediately. She insisted that outdated memories had no place beside modern innovation. The crowd remained silent, sensing that the simple car represented something far more personal than rust and worn-out steel. Standing near the edge of the exhibition was a quiet man named Rowan Mercer, a 35-year-old single father who earned a living repairing broken vehicles in a small neighborhood garage. His 8-year-old daughter, Maisie, stood beside him wearing denim overalls and holding her father's hand with quiet curiosity. Rowan had been invited only because his local workshop had restored several community vehicles for charity events. As everyone watched workers prepare to tow the sedan away, Rowan noticed something unusual beneath the hood that reminded him of repairs he had once learned from his own late father. Politely asking for permission, he requested only a few minutes to inspect the forgotten engine. Some executives laughed at the idea that an ordinary mechanic could succeed where time itself had failed, but Victoria simply shrugged, believing the attempt would change nothing. Rowan carefully lifted the hood under the bright afternoon sunlight. Instead of rushing, he treated every rusted bolt and dusty wire with remarkable patience, almost as though he respected the memories resting inside the machine. Maisie quietly handed him old tools from a small metal box while watching with hopeful eyes. Rowan noticed that years of neglect had frozen simple components that could still be saved with careful hands. He cleaned electrical contacts, adjusted a worn fuel line, replaced a cracked hose from spare materials he carried in his truck, and whispered that old things often needed understanding more than replacement. Around him, the noisy exhibition gradually fell silent. Reporters lowered their cameras, curious whether hope could truly return to something everyone else had abandoned. Victoria watched from a distance with folded arms, determined not to care. Yet every movement Rowan made reminded her of Harold patiently repairing neighbors' cars without expecting payment. Forgotten childhood images returned one after another, her father smiling beneath grease-covered hands, teaching her that every machine carried a story, and telling her never to judge anything by its appearance alone. Those memories struck harder than any business failure she had ever experienced. For the first time in years, the successful CEO found herself staring not at an old vehicle but at the life she had tried so desperately to erase. After nearly an hour of careful work, Rowan climbed into the driver's seat. The crowd held its breath as he gently turned the ignition. The first attempt produced only silence. The second brought a faint cough from deep within the engine. On the third attempt, the old sedan suddenly roared back to life. A cloud of harmless dust drifted into the warm daytime air as the familiar engine settled into a steady rhythm that sounded almost alive. Applause erupted across the exhibition grounds. Some people wiped tears from their eyes without fully understanding why. Victoria stood frozen, unable to believe that the sound she had buried with her father had returned after so many years. Instead of celebrating his achievement, Rowan quietly stepped away from the car. He explained that engines, like people, sometimes stopped working because they had been forgotten rather than because they were beyond repair. His words reached Victoria more deeply than any speech she had ever heard in a boardroom. She slowly approached the sedan, placing her trembling hand upon the faded hood exactly where her father used to rest his hand after every repair. For the first time since Harold's passing, she allowed herself to cry openly. Years of regret flowed away beneath the bright afternoon sky as she realized success had never required abandoning the people who helped build her dreams. In the weeks that followed, Victoria transformed part of her company into the Harold Hale Heritage Workshop, where experienced mechanics mentored young apprentices and restored forgotten family vehicles free of charge for struggling families. Rowan accepted the role of leading instructor while continuing to raise Maisie with the same quiet kindness that had inspired an entire company. The restored blue sedan welcomed visitors at the entrance every morning, reminding everyone that true value cannot always be measured by appearance or age. Employees who once feared failure now understood that patience, compassion, and second chances often produced the greatest miracles. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to Heartwarming Tales so more people can discover stories that remind us of the power of kindness. Special request: tell us in the comments, if you had one old possession filled with memories, what would you never throw away, and why? As the evening approached and the exhibition came to a close, Victoria watched the blue sedan drive slowly across the parking lot, its engine humming with quiet confidence. She finally understood that her father's greatest gift had never been the car itself. It had been the lesson that broken things and broken hearts can come back to life when someone cares enough to believe they still can. And sometimes, the person who changes everything isn't the wealthiest CEO in the room, but an ordinary single father willing to give one forgotten dream another chance.